And what I'm going to do is demonstrate how to create a hunting map, quick and dirty. Okay, so we're going to select Map Builder. We're going to select a new property. Okay, and again, with a PC, you can just type the name in. We have the keyboard here for the console. All right, so we've defined the map name, and now there's some base topographies that you can start with. And the first thing I do is actually define the texture that I want the property to have, because a lot of the workflow is based on the texture. You could really, what you're doing is you're highlighting an area. Okay, then you're going to tell the map builder what you want to do with that area. In the case of the terrain texture, we're selecting a terrain type on the left, and then on the right we can tell it to update the texture, and it'll actually update the map, and you can see it doing that. So now we split the property into pine needles and leaves. And I'm trying to just get the brush size adjusted. There's a brush size slider. On PC, left click will draw, right click will erase. Okay, we're going to put in another texture. This is going to be for our food plots. Okay, so we got a big long food plot running right through the middle of the property diagonally. Okay, now I'm going to draw my road. This is the texture for the a road in which we can drive our ATV on. The ATV goes faster on a road as opposed to through the woods, so it's easier to drive on the roads. Makes sense. Okay, now we have the logging road. Okay, now that I have my terrain textures defined, I'm going to go ahead and put in some trees. Okay, so the cool thing is to go into Terrain Builder and select the terrain type. Here I'm doing pine needles, and it will automatically highlight that so you don't have to draw it. You can draw it, but you can also use that feature. Okay, so my pine needles, I'm going to put big pine trees. You select the tree. You can determine how big the pine trees are going to be, how much they're going to be spaced, and you can actually have them tilted a little bit, which I think looks more natural in a natural wooded environment. They don't have to be, but they can be. You at that point you update, and you can see on the map where it's placing the trees. And so you put a bunch of trees in there. One thing that I am not doing until the end is going into the preview to actually see the work in progress. I would recommend doing that every time you do an iteration and place things, just to see what what your environment is looking like as you build it. I will do this at the end when I've more or less finished it. I am actually previewing. I'm not including all this in the video just for the sake of not making this thing an hour long. Okay, now we're going to put in saplings. Again, it's the same pretty much workflow, except we're going into the saplings and selecting different trees to place in the environment. That's what we're going to do. We're going to do this for everything. We're going to do it for the saplings. We will also do it for ground cover, logs, things like that, and then foliage. And you can click update as many times as you want. You get it in there. You can get them as thick as you want. The parameters, the spacing parameters, and that kind of thing help as well. And you can get a feel for this when you preview them. You will be able to understand how it's affecting that. Now that we have the big trees and the saplings in, we're going to add some ground cover. Same workflow. We're doing the pine side, the lower side of the property, and let's see, we're adding pine deadfalls and so forth. We're going to do the same thing with the foliage. We're going to add foliage. Let's see, we're doing the pine side. Okay, we got that selected. We're going into the terrain builder to select that area, and we're adding mushrooms. So you pick what you want, you go over and you decide how the size, the spacing. I don't tilt the vegetation or any of that. Update property will actually populate what you want, where you want it, with the parameters you've selected with the sliders. And we're going to do, we're doing grass. We're going to get it pretty good and thick. And again, preview will give you a really good indication of how the placement looks. Okay, so now we're actually going to go in and do a preview, and you can preview it based on any of the seasons. Early fall would be archery. It's green, the woods are green. Late fall would be more of an autumn where the leaves have thinned and they're turning colors, and then the winter would be leaves are gone, snowy, that kind of thing. So I'm just cruising through looking at the environment I've created. This step, okay, this is actually a food plot, but I put grass in it. You can plant the food plot crops over the grass or not. I think it's realistic to have weeds in there and things like that. What I'm probably going to do is actually around the edges of these big plots is take all the foliage out so that I can plant soybeans and things like that. So anyway, that gives you a look at it, and we can progress on to the next step. I'm going to actually go in. These are my food plot terrain textures. So what I'm doing is I'm going to draw some areas on the edges where I'm actually going to plant crops. And what I'm going to do is go in and delete. I'm highlighting these areas, and then I'm going to go in and delete the grass and the foliage that I planted in there, because my crops will be thicker if I don't have all those weeds in there. So that's why I'm doing that. Okay, so notice how when I've highlighted the area that I want to affect. I've gone into my grass and foliage, and notice that when I'm deleting things, I select remove. The tab in the upper right, you can remove or add, and so you can actually clear things out, and that's how you do it. Now I want to clear my logging road. Okay, so I'm going to go into Terrain Builder, and I'm going to select the roads, so it highlights the road, which is the area we're interested in. Okay, and then this may sound tedious, but it's really not that hard to do. You simply have to go into all the big trees and select them all and remove them all. That makes doubly sure that everything is cleared off the road. You do the same thing for the saplings, ground cover, and foliage, and it should clear all your logging roads so that they're easy to drive on. So this thing's going to take a minute to go through and do all this. In the lower left-hand corner of the map, there's an icon, and I don't know if it's obvious, but that is the lodge. That's where the lodge is located. The other thing is that on the map there is a red line, a square that goes around the entire perimeter of the property. Well, in the game there is a fence that you can't cross. It's basically the property boundaries, and that red line would represent the position of that fence. Okay, so we're removing the trees, the saplings, the ground cover, the grass, and at that point we will have I guess almost a completed map. The next thing that I'm going to do is actually change the logging road contours, and incidentally this could be done for any of the terrain types that you have on your property. So the first thing to do is to go into Terrain Builder and select a particular terrain type so that it highlights it. You could also draw this if you didn't want to do it by terrain type. If you wanted to do something custom, you could do that too. Okay, so in the Terrain Builder, you highlight this area. Okay, and then you use your Modify Terrain Contours, and you can see where there's a negative and a plus, and it's a slider bar. You can actually make, for example, in this case, the logging road can be indented or it can be like crowned. I'm making it a little slightly indented, and I've also adjusted the terrain amplitude as well. That's at the top of that dialog box on the right, which would make your hills hillier or flatter depending. Okay, so now we're going to go preview what we've done. The road is in flatter places where there's not a lot of relief. It may not affect it as much, but it should have a little bit of a depression so that it's in the ground a little bit. And again, the contours can be adjusted for any terrain type or anything that you paint and highlight. You can do that with. I would recommend creating a duplicate of the map so that if you get some unexpected results, you can revert back to your previous copy That's easy to do. In Map Builder, there's a duplicate feature. So anyway, yeah, we're driving down the road or walking down the road, and you can see essentially what your hunting level looks like. Preview mode will have, again, it'll have 3 modes for early fall, late fall, and winter. Okay, you can also do, I've talked about post-processing. This is the post-processing effects, we're calling them. And by the way, the lower right icons are based on me using the PlayStation to create this video. It should be pertinent to whatever, if you're using an Xbox controller or a mouse, it should be fairly self-explanatory as far as what buttons to hit. To the backpack button on the PlayStation, it's an X. I believe it's a K on the PC. But that gets the menu up. You can slide it around, select what you want. You can adjust the settings for the various options. There's the humidity and the shadow resolution and the sun color and the sun intensity. You can also create different mountainous backdrops or nothing. You can raise the elevation of mountains above the terrain as well. Okay, so anyway, we're walking back down the road, and now we're going to get out. We've surveyed it. Yeah, it looks good. And yeah, that's all there is to it. You have just created a hunting map.